All right, folks, welcome to the Red to Black podcast. It's your host, Mario Parzino. I'm also with Daniel Gomez. Daniel, can you introduce yourself?
Hey, Mario. Thanks for having me on. Danny Gomez. I'm the CEO and founder of First Person Experience. We are a education and entertainment company out of North Carolina. I'm also a Army reservist, and I'm a lieutenant colonel.
Awesome, man. So I kind of want to talk or frame this discussion around building teams as far as your training to the national security folks up in the Beltway or whoever you're doing business with. What do you do to help build teams with those organizations?
Team building is a really interesting topic, right? You know, sometimes people are forced into a team. Working in the government, that's what we do, right? You, and you get together, launch a space shuttle, defend Afghanistan, whatever you want. Probably a sore topic right now, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
But,
it is.
But it all depends on what type of team you're on and how that team works together. But the basics are the same. There's 4 different phases: forming, norming, forming, storming, norming, and conforming. Right? You always have this ebb and flow of personalities and how they work together, but only after you come to consensus and start working things out does that team really get going.
So what do you offer as far as when you're reaching out to an organization or a corporation? What are you specifically offering to train them? I said part is it's education training, the other is entertainment. What's the differentiating aspect of your company?
Right. Well, I believe sincerely that you can have fun while learning and you can learn while having fun. You know, ask any special operations personnel or even regular military folks when they're out there in a training center, play fighting against the enemy, they're having fun and they're learning at the same time, right? So I really don't differentiate the two. I believe the purpose is different, the stakes are different if you're doing special operations training versus if you're just playing a game. But in the end, I think both can be achieved at the same time. My company specifically, we try to help people understand how they think. Right? We specialize in creative thinking, helping people foster that unique skill. And we also specialize in human dynamics, reading people, body language, understanding each other, communication skills. These are all very important in the type of work in the national security area and business as well.
So let's go to do a little bit deeper dive on that. So as far as communication, you said we're trying to cultivate like creative thinking. What are some of the scenarios you run folks through? If you can kind of unpack without giving away all your trade secrets, kind of unpack what you're doing to kind of trigger people to think about solutions to problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are working on a brand new project, and we're fostering a innovation experimentation laboratory. And what it is going to be a place to test your ideas. Right? A place where you can have a free and clear discussion with each other, with your teams or other partners, and come up with ideas. The unique aspect about the military and the government at whole is that it has its own culture. And that culture and that bureaucracy, it's a counterbalance to creativity, right? We all want conformity, dress right, dress. Everybody's in line with each other. We all wear the same uniform. We have a hierarchy, right? And it works. We need a lot of those things to have a successful military and organization. However, those things are directly opposed to creative thinking, right? I'll just give you some quick examples of what I believe. I believe that the military rewards, that creativity is rewarded on the battlefield, but it's punished in garrison. And what does that mean? That means that if you're out there toe-to-toe with the enemy, fighting, the person who's more agile, who can think on their feet, who can take advantage of unique opportunities to use technology or people or organizations or processes to their benefit, will win the battle, right? However, that same innovation, that same creativity on the battlefield, if you try that back in garrison, now what are you? You're a boat rocker. You're rocking the boat. And people don't like that, right? So a commander will be like, hey, this guy is thinking outside the box, which is bringing eyes on my organization. And that may not necessarily be a good thing, right? If I just want to do my job, get good grades on my report, and move out, I have this guy rubbing people the wrong way. He's asking people, why are we doing the things that we're doing? Why are we doing it this certain way? Why are we spending this money in this area? And he will be a habitual line stepper at that point, right? So the command teams will look down upon people like that because the stakes are not high. The only stake that matters is that person's promotion status, right? But in the war, it's different. You don't have a choice. You're resource constrained. You have to act now to win. Perfect example. I know we'll probably hit this Afghanistan topic. It's an incredibly powerful topic in our country for many, many reasons. But I just want to talk about one quick thing of that. You'll see scenes of that C-17 trying to take off. And in front of the C-17 is 1,000 people. There's 2 Apaches that fly 2 feet off the ground, trying to use their rotor wash to separate the people to get out of the way so that C-17 can take off. Those 2 pilots displayed extraordinary courage in the face of imminent danger to their life, their partners' lives, and everyone on that plane and on that airfield. Nowhere on earth do they teach you to use rotor wash, get rid of crowds. Fact. So they did that, however, and it worked, and they took the risk, and it paid off. Now, those same exact pilots in the same exact aircraft in garrison would be punished, would be reprimanded for even dare attempt such a thing, right? And we're not even allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to have a plan about it. We're not allowed to write it down. It's just taboo, right? To talk about something like that. However, you can see that what they did worked immediately and effectively to the threat of everyone around them. They put the mission ahead of their own safety, without question. And they should be rewarded for that. And I don't know if they're going to be rewarded for that, but they should be. I would. I'm a lieutenant colonel. I'll sign their reward tomorrow. Bronze Star. There you go. But the military, there's a conflict there, right? So that's one aspect. The other aspect is, and we're looking for positivity, right? So that's just one negative aspect. Another negative aspect of the culture is that we punish failure, right? If you fail, just like in school, you're punished. You get a low grade, you get punished. In the real world, ask SpaceX how many times they failed, right? Ask Disney how many times they failed, right? Ask any inventor how many times they failed. They keep trying and they learn from their mistakes and make things better. The military should create a system that encourages that, lets you fail safely, and learn from that. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to really bring these skills and change that mindset in the military. We know, I know I can't do it from the inside. I'm not at that position, right? But we can definitely affect it from the outside and hopefully open people's eyes, right?
When you bring folks into this laboratory to do some creative thinking or to look at the skills necessary to do creative thinking, is it a space where people take off their rank, they're in civilian attire, or does the rank structure, the military rank structure, play a filter, have a lens into this laboratory?
Yeah, that the rank structure is a roadblock to enabling creativity. But in a laboratory, there's no rank, there's no positions or anything like that. Whenever I teach, we don't have anything like that, because you want to be completely open and trustworthy, right? Special operations, it's much easier for us. It's still there, but it's much easier for us. Conventional Army is a little bit more difficult, making that mental leap. And corporate America, it just depends what type of organization you have, right? Is it an IBM or is it a Google?
Okay, so let's distinguish between IBM and Google. Is that distinguishing between centralized and decentralized, or what's the
More people focused versus process focused, right? Ford, for example, will be process focused. I'm trying to think of another app like Airbnb will be people focused, I guess. I don't know.
I would say the military, if it trends any direction, it's going to be process focused, not creative thinking, people focused.
Yes, the Army. My friend told me this last week. The Army goes rolling along, is the words of the song, right? It doesn't. Even if you're not there, even if you just got there, it's going to keep rolling, right? So that's important to know. Yeah, but there's certain things you have to do to foster this creativity and let it be free. People have to be willing to share their ideas, and not every idea is great, but you'll never know unless you try. And what we have in our national security apparatus is a failure of creativity, right? It's a lack of creativity. The 9/11 report stated that we had a lack of imagination, right? You look at places like China building islands in the middle of the ocean and putting anti-aircraft weapons on them. They didn't ask anybody's permission to do that. You look at ISIS buying commercial off-the-shelf drones, 3D printing parts, strapping grenades to it. They didn't ask anybody's permission to do that. You look at Russia paying some guys in an internet cafe to crank out 7,000 dank memes, right, against us, right? They didn't ask anybody's permission, right? And what do we have? The F-35. Great job, everybody, right? It did great this week, by the way, the F-35, right? So we need to, I feel like we can make a difference and help people understand that at the end of the day, just before we had this call, right, I said the technology will always fail, the people will never will, right? And I find that every instance I come across talks of creativity and innovation, technology is attached to that, software is attached to that, and I vehemently disagree with that. In special operations, we have a set of truths, and soft truth number one is humans are more important than hardware, right? But 99% of our funding goes towards hardware and software. So explain that to me, right? When in actuality, it's the people that will make a difference, all right? Doesn't matter how hypersonic your missiles are, how artificial your intelligence is, it's the people are going to use tools to fight other people. That's how the history of warfare has happened, right? So, and you're talking about AI, robots. People are going to use robots to fight other people, right? We don't want to get to the people versus robots thing yet. It won't turn out well for us. But that's what's going to happen. And I feel that the best thing we can do is prepare ourselves to be adaptable, to empower our humans.
I think there's some things we do really well in the military: logistics, close air support, artillery, conventional infantry, special operations. There's things that we are world class at. But when it comes to, like you said, is thinking outside the box, having decentralized command structures where you can autonomously attack targets, you can prosecute targets overseas. We lack the speed that, for instance, unconventional forces overseas that we compete against, they operate at a higher speed. Their OODA loop is much faster than ours is, because there is no doctrine. They're not falling back on any process. They're literally adapting like on the battlefield as things are happening. They're adapting to the situation and moving at a faster, more fluid speed that we're able to compete with. And IEDs, for instance, when I left Iraq in 2006, I was there in Fallujah in 05, 06. I saw the first like MRAP or like Cougar. It was this anti-mine vehicle, and I was like, nothing in the world could ever blow that vehicle up. There is no bomb in the world. Fast forward, I was in 2009, I was in Afghanistan, and we came into Leatherneck, and there was a graveyard of like Cougars and MRAPs snapped in half, and I went, oh, they adapted. They figured that thing out real quick. Exactly how to place bombs, how to do unconventional warfare. I guess we're getting triggered here with Afghanistan this week or last couple of weeks, but going back to this laboratory, kind of digging down, what are some of the problem sets that you kind of have in like a scenario that you present to these teams to trigger that creativity or to start working through that process with the folks that have hired you?
Yeah. And I was with you in Fallujah. Were you there for Thanksgiving?
So let's see here. So 2005.
The Marine birthday where we had beer.
Let's not talk about that. I can't. I'm still in the Marine Corps. I can't admit.
No, for the Marine Corps birthday, they gave us beer. We had 2 beers and 1 Bacardi bottle. That was completely legit. I was there. I don't even drink, but whatever. Anyway, all right. So let's talk about this. So you have to. Why do we have role playing? Why do we have scenarios, right? So that we can think differently, right? So what we're gonna be doing is we're going to create a fictional world. Not world. World's the wrong answer. A fictional area or set of countries where you can enact your ideas and test them against, right? So we're going to have fictitious person. So let's call it Wakanda. Everybody knows Wakanda from Black Panther, right? So we're going to have the island of Wakanda, and we're going to allow your personnel or the organization's personnel to engage with people from that country for whatever purpose they need. And they're going to be able to test their ideas through a gameplay scenario against the people of Wakanda or the personnel or what have you, right? And it's much more geared towards concepts, human dynamics, influencing information operations, things like that. I don't care if your S-18 can reach this range. I don't care if your artillery can shoot this far. We're not talking about that. We're talking about ideas, influencing relationships, human dynamics, unique stuff. And we want to give them the ability to fight things that don't exist yet, right? So everybody's talking about autonomous drone swarms, right? That's going to be the new thing. Well, right now there's some guy in a lab working on that, and there's some guy in a lab working on the counter to that. But the operational guys, you and I and other people, are not even talking about that. And I think that's a big mistake, right? So we can talk about that. It's all it takes to come up with ideas is 2 people and someone to care, right? And that's what we're providing here.
Is there any type of psychology or marketing, so we talked about information operations and kind of creating this space, this fictional island where you're going to try to influence. Yeah. How does psychology play into that? How do you teach the folks about what you've learned, or how do you bridge the gap with what you've learned in special operations and maybe come to a straight-legged infantry unit or folks that are getting ready to go into a third world country? Right now I have a friend, he's Colonel Chris Karimi, who's in South Sudan, kind of working with the civil war that's going on in South Sudan. So kind of give me some like basic strategies that you use to teach guys that don't have a special operations background about psychology and influencing and information operations.
Yeah. So what I'm most interested in is helping people understand their paradigm, right? How are they viewing the situation? Are we viewing it through our paradigm, the U.S., America, freedom type stuff? Are we viewing it through the enemy's paradigm? If it's whatever, Wakanda, right? Are we viewing it through their cultural paradigm? Is there some type of political view that they go through? Are we bringing our own biases into it? We need to understand that those things are in play, right? And we also need to understand that just because a book says that all Iraqis do this, or this book says all the Japanese do that, doesn't make it true. In fact, it's far from the truth. Humans are very interesting creatures, right? We have tribes, we have beliefs. Science doesn't work that well against us, right? We go off of storytelling and emotion, narratives and things like that. So we need to understand that when entering these type of spaces that have all these issues happening in it. One of the things I try to bring up all the time when I teach a class like this is the rules. Like, why do we believe that there are rules, for example, right? So I was teaching a class, we're talking about nuclear weapons and stuff like that on the internet, on class stuff. So I'm like, okay, so what is that at the point that you would use a nuclear weapon? Why are you doing that? And the student said, oh, because that's the threshold. And I said, threshold for what? And he said, oh, the nuclear weapons threshold. Like from the mutually assured destruction type thing with the Soviets and stuff. And I said, who made those rules? Oh, he's like, I don't know. We did. And I said, okay, well, let's look at this. I mean, who's the first person to use a nuclear weapon? And then they're like, we did. I'm like, who's the only person to ever use a nuclear weapon? And I said, we did. And I'm like, who's making the rules? And like, we are. And okay, are there rules? Are there even rules? Right? And then the answer is no. It's just rules that we make up on ourselves, right? If you can, if a terrorist got a hold of a nuke, they would use it. They would use it or threaten it or whatever. And it doesn't matter what your nuclear threshold rules are. They're going to do it. It doesn't matter. There are no rules, right? So we were talking about thresholds and when people cross thresholds. And I'm like, what is the threshold for launching a nuclear weapon? And I'm like, would shooting down an airplane full of civilians meet that threshold? And then they were like, maybe. And I'm like, well, it did. It happened. And nothing happened after that, right? What about hacking an entire country's personnel records? It did. And it didn't happen. What about shutting off people's like water supply? What do you guys think about that? So we got to talking about this stuff, and you come to the realization that some of the stuff is just stories that you tell yourself, right? That, that's not going to happen, or this isn't going to happen. I got windows up in this Internet Explorer thing that show exactly what happens if you assume stuff, right? We don't want to do that. So that's getting out of your own way in dealing with problems is part of this process, right? Testing new things. Everybody, if you ask them, what's the Ford one? It's if you ask them what they wanted, they would say, I want a faster horse, right? And they wouldn't understand what a car is or how it works, right? People need to open their minds to new possibility. I read one article recently. It's called "In Space, No One Can Hear You, Oorah. Why Marines Will Never Go to Space." Did you see that one?
No, I didn't.
Okay, well, think about that. This guy is he wrote a paper. He definitively argued that Marines will never be in space. That's a bold move because I listed 3 examples in fiction, but they're very plausible on instances where Marines will most likely be used in space. But he was just declaring that it cannot happen when he has no crystal ball. He has no magic 8-ball or anything like that. If you just say what cannot happen, you will never give yourself the freedom to create something new and something better, right? Just ask Elon Musk. I mean, who the dudes in space, right? Richard Branson, even Bezos, right? Boom, we're in the air. Never thought that would happen, but here we are, right?
It seems as these guys get wealthier and wealthier, they start thinking about not solving problems, their local problems. They're not even thinking about national problems. They're thinking about getting off this globe. They're thinking about getting into different galaxies. They're blasting out of here. They're trying to solve.
I see that. I think there's an extraordinary amount of lessons we can learn from them. And I think that what they're doing is extremely important. I think it just needs to be framed appropriately. If you want a great education, go into the comment sections from Richard Branson's launch and see what the people are saying. And they'll say things like, why don't you give all the money to the poor? That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. Just stuff like that. But they can do the exact same thing if they wanted to. He worked 20 years to do that type of stuff, that stuff, and he succeeded in achieving his goal. Very few people get out of bed, right? So you can reach the stars if you want to, and all you got to do is try. But we need to just reframe some of that, and also keep an eye on them. I know that take the movie Elysium, for example. All the rich people escape, and then Earth's left alone, right? I do believe that we can learn from this, take positives away from this, and then use it for the greater good. I think that's what we can focus on right now. But right now, we're not in the conditions to do that. I mean, if you just look across the world lately, and then you just see things aren't what they seem, and it's just very confusing time for all.
Bringing this back down to earth a little bit, the teams that you see, that you teach, that do the best, is there any trends? Is there any patterns that you see as far as personalities, as far as, I guess, is it a hodgepodge of people that come in to get this training and they go back to their separate units, or is there actual teams that come in there? And if so, is there any patterns you see of who does the best, and what are some of the personalities, or what are some of the trends that you see?
All right, so I'm referencing my time in the military for this answer. When I was an instructor at the schoolhouse, the John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center in school, and I was in charge of the training for special operations soldiers, right? And if they're good enough to succeed and move on to the force, right? The things that we saw the best were trust in the team, right? If they can trust each other, they can do anything, right? Somebody's going to be the smart guy. Somebody's going to be the guy that organizes very well. Somebody's going to be the talker. Someone's going to be the muscle, right? But in the end, it's the teams that trust each other. Because even if you're smart, tough, or a people person, if nobody trusts you, you're not in the team. You're just a bunch of people by themselves, right? It doesn't matter how well you were trained either, unless it's a single person show. And if you're a 4-man team, you're never going to succeed. Trust is the number one thing you need in a small team. For the teams that I deployed across this earth, I deployed teams into 9 different countries when I was a commander.
And roughly what size are these teams?
But the size of the teams were 2 to 3. Those were the size of the teams. So it's like a marriage, right? You have to make it work. And fortunately, 6 of them were mine, right? The other were like 1 people, right? But 6 of those teams, one of the teams, they didn't get along, but it didn't affect their work, right? And then the other team, they were the one person was setting conditions to completely sabotage the other person's stuff, which is extraordinarily unfortunate, and I was very displeased about that. But everybody else worked out extremely well.
Okay, so let's go on the negative. There's 2 teams that didn't work out. You said one team that didn't get along well, but they were all about the mission, and they could still work. They did it. Was that 2 guys, 2 dudes, right?
Yeah, 2 dudes.
So they were just like, pass me the ball, I got this. They didn't like each other, but they're like, I want to win. And you're on my team. I just want to win with you.
3 dudes, but since they're professionals, one guy, the NCO didn't think the officer was up to par for the task, and he was okay. He was just fine. But that officer did succeed in doing his job. He just needs much more refinement, especially in people skills, right? Because if you can't treat people well, you're not representing our country, right? You're not even representing your mom well if you can't treat people well, right? However, the other team was a real big problem. I mean, because the team they didn't know the lead did not know that they were being set up. So that looks something like this: you do all your missions over X number of months, but every single day that person goes back and writes down everything wrong that happened. And then when you get back home and you don't like what was said or written, now that guy pulls out this dossier and is like, well, this happened, right? And I said, I shut that down. I shut that down real quick. As a good commander should, you should shut it down. That's completely unacceptable in our line of work. because you only have each other.
And what was the dynamics of that second team? Was that again like an NCO and an officer? What was the
Yeah, I was an NCO and
yeah
officer. I mean,
both
that's what it
males?
was. Yeah. I can't talk about that.
Got it.
Yeah, but it's just that has nothing to do with it because I've seen all mixes.
It works. Sometimes it works.
So
Sometimes it doesn't.
yeah. But the it's just it's much more the individual than it is the
Sure.
dynamic. We can't. It's most times the individual, not the dynamic of NCO officer, right? It's usually just the individual that's having.
When you were sending these teams overseas, was there an expectation on your basis that you fail together or succeed together, or was it also there's individual effort and merit? So, or is there a balance between those two? Let me frame that a different way.
There's no individual effort.
Okay, so it's
at
a team.
all.
You guys are gonna win as a team or fail as a team.
Yeah, the bottom line, I told them this, it's in my command philosophy. It's I'm going to do everything in my power to train you to the best of your ability and give you the tools and equipment you need to succeed before I deploy you anywhere across the earth. Also, I might get a call and deploy you in 24 hours anywhere across the earth, and I still expect excellence. Right? Those are the two things I said, right? So either I'm going to train you and send you, or I'm just going to send you. Good luck. But I always expect excellence because they are here for a reason and they can do it. They can achieve excellence. Nobody cares if you don't build a hospital or you try to have a medical event and somebody doesn't have the medicine or the contractor doesn't show up or the villager gets kind of upset. Nobody cares about any of that. Were you doing right for America? Were you doing right for your command? Were you following the guidance, right? You know, if they said, "Hey, I want you to interact with the people," great, do it. You're going to do great. If you just follow these very simple rules and values, you will do amazing. You can make mistakes all you want as long as you do amazing. It's the problems come when people choose to do the wrong thing. That's it, right? And we didn't have any of those problems. No one chose, besides that internal struggle, none of the teams chose to do the wrong thing. They all did very well, and I'm extremely proud of them.
The four that really succeeded or teed off really well. So we talked about the two that had some hiccups, and then there was four you deployed that did really well. Was there any trends or anything that kept popping up with those teams that you could see?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, one of them, the two guys, they went to the exact same country before together. So they already have that extraordinary relationship built, right? That's very that's a key point. Time's the thing that makes things better, right? For that. So the relationship worked very well. Two of those teams deployed. So yeah, time with each other. But like I said, trust is always a part of it. Trust is the most important part.
Is there a way to cultivate trust as you're training these guys up or as they're going through?
That's a great question.
Like setting them up to succeed so that they trust you.
Time is the thing that shows trust, right? You need to see people in a lot of environments, under stress, no stress, with money, without money, family problems, no family problems, overworked, underworked. You need to see all that stuff, and then you'll know if you can trust someone or not, right? That's the big thing, and that works for regular people as well, right? And your job, if you build one of the keys to creativity and a good team building is creating a trusting environment, right? So let's say you tell me you want to start building this type of vehicle, right? Our organization should be trusting enough to say, sir, I think that based on my analysis, these other vehicles might be better suited, right? And then if we were in a trusting organization, you would be like, okay, let me look at that. Or yeah, let me see. I already looked at this. I understand what you're saying, but we're going to go with this one. And I say, yes, sir, 3 bags full, right? As long as there's nothing immoral or illegal or anything like that, you're the boss. I respect that. I shared my idea and we shared our opinions with each other. If I can't tell you what I think because you're going to yell at me, you decrease the efficiency of this organization exponentially. A leader did that, right? So we need to be able to share those ideas. And if the follower needs to be able to say yes and continue the job, and the boss needs to be able to say, I hear you, I want to go this way, because he might not have all the information. And when people hide information is when bad things happen, right? And people hide information is because they're hoarding it or they don't have trust in their leadership. And it's extraordinarily unfortunate when that happens. And it goes both ways too. If you don't trust your people, you micromanage them, right? If you don't trust your boss, you hide things from them. Even information, the boss doesn't want to hear that. Well, the boss needs to hear it, right? I was a habitual teller of things that bosses don't want to hear. Because you told me to do the job, right? I'm going to tell you to do the job. And then if you're going to give me bad grades, you're going to give me a bad grade for doing my job. I don't care. I'm not in here for grades. You know what I mean? And
I think either one of us were being groomed for general. So yeah, I
yeah,
follow you on that one.
And there's a different animal, right? You look at, let's just touching Afghanistan again. What's my job? I put one of these posts. If in a climate of trust, the media would ask a general, "Do you think you could secure Afghanistan with 2,500 people, soldiers?" And the general should say, "Lol, no. There's a 2,500 security guards at Lollapalooza in Chicago. You think I'm going to secure a country with that? I'm just going to try to do my best, right?" That's honesty and that's facts, right? So we can't. Sometimes things need to be sugarcoated a little, but transparency, trust, and honesty is the best way to fix those problems.
Yeah, I think we had around 10,000 Marines in Helmand Province, and it was not even complete. It wasn't even remotely capable of securing Helmand Province with 10,000 Marines. And we never lost a battle. We lost the war, but we never lost a gunfight. I would say the corruption in I was in Lashkargah, so south of Leatherneck, kind of down. I was working on the border with the Afghan border police. That's actually where I met Warner. And the corruption was just so incredible to stop or to penetrate or to get around that it was just almost an unworkable situation. For example, the commander would pay all of his soldiers, so he would receive the money from, let's say, Kabul or Kandahar or wherever the headquarters was. He'd get a pile of cash and he would pay out his soldiers. Well, before he paid them, he would convert it into rupees, Pakistani rupees. And he would pay them like 1/10 of a dollar for every dollar they were owed for the month or for every 2 weeks. He would pay them about 1/10 of their actual salary and pocket the rest. And these were both the same commanders, did the same exact thing. The corruption was just incredible. Both were running private security.
Well, is it corruption? Is it their culture?
That's the way they do business. No, it was actually.
That's the way they do business. And who are you trying to change? You're just trying to make the world a better place.
You paid for battalion command, or you paid to be a commander.
Yeah. You paid for battalion command, and it's good to be the king. So the organizations are designed like that in their culture, right? So was that hierarchy designed by them? Is a question we should be asking. Is it effective? Right? How do the Taliban pay their people? I'm curious to know. I don't know. I didn't play the Afghan game, but I'd be curious to know how they did. Right? We have to understand that stuff. Right? When I heard Iraqi police getting issued their combat equipment and then selling it and then using it to feed their family, right? And you're like, how are you going to do your job without your equipment? It's like, well, I had to feed my family. We wouldn't do that, but that's how they do it, right? They'll rip the copper wiring out of the wall to feed their family. And what are we saying? No, they don't care that it's going to cost $1 million to fix No one's going to have electricity. They're going to be working for the next 2 years. And it's their culture is if you can get it, get it. And because it's the harsh desert culture type stuff, right? Take everything and give nothing back. Take what you can, give nothing back, right? So it's an interesting dynamic, and when we're in places like this doing operations like that, we need to understand how we think about things, how we act to it, how does our team react to it. Should we be thinking differently? And that's that creativity training comes in. Look at all this stuff. Last 10 years, every single week, we had a symposium on artificial intelligence, drones, great power competition, right? Guess what? Spoiler, none of that mattered because we just hightailed Bud out of here in 2 days ago, right? And all that stuff was just great talking, feel good type stuff. What actually mattered was not being talked about, was being ignored, and we just pretended like it didn't matter. And guess what? Everyone woke up and realized, oh wait, it actually does matter, and it matters a lot to the country, to our relationships, to our soldiers. It's extremely unfortunate situation we're in.
Was there an economic? Let's just go down. It's both kind of raw on both of our hearts right now. Going to specifically talking about the Taliban, talking about Afghanistan. Was there an economic condition we could set? So kind of focusing on the E of Pomisky A scope or whatever the acronym is we use now. Not political, not environmental, but like the economic situation. Could we have created, or could we create a economic, or let's take this hypothetical little island nation. Is there an economic situation where you can create and empower people economically where they don't want to allow, they would jeopardize their feeding their family, they would jeopardize their financial future by allowing things to get too far off the rails? Is that a solution that we should look at, or is that a creative problem that we could drive at with the next problem we're going to face in a third world nation? Is what conditions could we set economically where they're stakeholders? Now they go, well, don't screw this thing up. Don't kill the golden. We don't want to go backwards. This economic condition that we're living under is better than when America showed up or whatever, NATO showed up. Is that something you guys are? Go ahead.
Well, the first thing is, what makes you think you can control someone's economy, right? We need to, just because we have all the guns and money in the world doesn't mean we can control things. So we need to understand that some things we can control and some things we can't. This situation, people say we lost the war. I mean, like, people say that, some people say the military lost the war. Sometimes military people say we lost, right? It all depends on what time frame you're looking at and what are you actually talking about, right? But understanding that on what time frame you're looking at and everything like that, you have to look at I lost my train of thought there. You have to look at the rules of insurgency. Rule number 1 of insurgency: the person who quits first loses. History of the world. Read a book, right? Person who quits first loses, right? So if you want to say, well, that shows that we lost, then you're right. That does show that we lost. The person who, if you want to compare it to, hey, we went in there to defeat the Al Qaeda, maybe you're right if you have the certain sliding scale, right? If you want to change the mission to, build a stable and secure Afghanistan at peace with itself and neighbors, right? Then you're wrong. We lost that. You could also argue, is that the military's job? No, it's not. Fun fact, right? You could also argue, were we given enough resources to do what we needed to do? No, we were not, whether it's military or Department of State or whoever. Did we change our mindset about the whole thing? No, we did not, right? In the last 15 years, I only heard 2 opinions on Afghanistan: leave completely or stay forever. The only third opinion I heard was somebody who said we should hire mercenaries to be, in charge of that stuff, right? And I said that's a very interesting topic, except for the fact the guy talking owns a mercenary company, right? So if somebody else said that, I would be willing to listen, right? But I mean, the guy owns a mercenary company. He might be right. Yeah,
An
yeah,
army.
he owns an
He
army.
owns
But
an
guess
army in a
what?
box.
I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying I'm glad he came up with an idea, but you're biased because you own a mercenary company, right? But so a lot of, and then I heard another idea, which is much more interesting than everybody else's. Understanding what we can't control and what we can. So, fun fact: who owns all the oil contracts in Iraq? I don't know, but it's not America. Fun fact: who owns all the mineral mining rights in Afghanistan? It's China, right? I didn't see any Chinese soldiers in Afghanistan. Did you? Nope. Right? Who protected the Taliban the last 20 years? Pakistan. Okay, so what are we talking about here? Like what's you all these stay forever, leave, and everything like that. We didn't get any benefits from it. What I consider all this stuff, unfortunately, the country invests in something: blood, treasure, time. If you do not receive anything for your investment, it's a loss, right? Not, and the soldiers have to deal with that, unfortunately, but you need to spend it wisely and get results. I just posted an example of my design thinking on my LinkedIn that shows that America invested its blood and treasure all over the world for the past like 75 years in hoping we can build relationships with that. And in almost every case, we did not receive the relationships equal to the effort of blood, treasure, and time. Then you compare that to China and you put their efforts, right? And what they received all the benefits, all the trade deals, all the trade, all the resources, with no efforts of blood and very minimal efforts to treasure and efforts to time. And then you look at so China has more influence and resources and spends less, and America's the opposite. We spend more and we don't have enough. We don't have any influence and stuff like that. And then you look. Then the interesting fact is now you look at which country likes China. No country. I would say maybe Vietnam, maybe. Yeah, well, I mean, Russia doesn't
Maybe
like
Russia.
China. Russia
Yeah.
tolerates
Okay.
China, right? But what country likes China? I don't think there is one. Which country loves America? Like most
Right.
countries love America, right? Which country? Yeah, who?
Sure. Or at
Yeah,
least
yeah, yeah, yeah. Our movies,
the
our flags,
Americans and our
right?
dollars.
Who
Yeah.
who wants to
We're we're
be
treated pretty
like
well
America?
when we
Mo-
travel.
Most countries, like they wave the flag in
Most.
Cuba, they wave the flag in Taiwan, Hong Kong, right, and places like that, right? Um, who wants to be like
Yeah.
America? Us versus them, right? And who cherishes American ideals, technology, and intellectual property and stuff like that? The rest of the world, right? They don't cherish Chinese stuff. So that's an interesting situation we're in, and I have nothing good to say about either. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
but
Quick.
wait, let me tell you. So this is
Quick little story on. Yeah.
Afghanistan, all the politics, winning, losing, decisions, insanity, that's one thing. The most important thing is what I feel is this one. People were sucking the last 3 days and will continue to suck the last 3 days. And I say that taking care of our veterans and our active duty service members is a team sport. So even though all that stuff happened, it happened. We can't turn the clock back. We need to take care of our own because we're feeling angry, frustrated, despair, regret, loss, shame, guilt, anger again, if I didn't say anger, sadness, confusion, embarrassment, all those things we're feeling. I didn't go to Afghanistan, but I still feel it too. All these guys are feeling it. So what do we got to do?
Sure.
Number one, if you're feeling these things, that's okay. We're all feeling it together. So please reach out and talk to somebody about this, whether it's a therapist or your buddy, right? You have to, it's
All right.
your responsibility to go out and talk to people about these issues. Because if you don't, you're just lost by yourself. That's number one. Number two, if you're not having all these feelings, it's your job to go find someone who is having these feelings and help them as well, right? Because this is taking care of our soldiers is a
That's right.
team sport, right? And all we have is each other. You got shot at, Werner got shot at, right? I got rockets thrown at me. My friends got EFP'd, right? No one else in America will understand that. It doesn't matter what type of civilian you are. No one
Right.
will understand that. Only we understand that. And we need to find ways to cope with that, right? Talk to each other, cope with it, get our mind off it. If by playing video games, ragging on each other's faces, like that's really fun to do. I was delivering some memes and stuff, right? My favorite one recently was, why are you so mad about Afghanistan? It's the last scene from the Joker where he's dragging on a cigarette and he goes, you just won't get it, right? But guess what? All of us get it 100%, right? So I'm using that to try to
Yeah.
help people and understand it, because the politicians, ain't none of them sent me a letter saying, "Hey, I'm sorry you feel bad. Stiff up a lip." Our generals, they didn't. I sent the letter.
No.
I sent the letter out on Monday. It
No.
said, "This is an email I did not receive, but I should have." And it said, "Soldiers, airmen, and blah blah blah. I understand you're feeling frustrated." And I put all out there. It got 20,000 views that day, and I've never had anything more than like 30, right? So it got 20,000 views. People shared it all over the place. And lo and behold,
Right.
the chief of staff of the army sends one out the next day. Not as good as mine, but I'll allow it. And the VA sent one later on that first day as well. And I was proud of the VA for doing that. I really appreciate the VA for doing that. But we need to take care of each other because no one else is, right? And regardless of geopolitical climates.
No, the solution to veteran suicide is veterans reaching out to each other and being able to express the angers, express the frustration, the sadness, the despondence, the despair, and kind of cathartically move through that emotion into acceptance, or just moving on, getting into your life, getting to a point in your life where you just move on. A quick story about Afghanistan is in the 1950s, the Corps of Engineers, maybe the CIA, built like a Bakersfield type of agricultural community called Marja, and they carved out a bunch of productive fields, and they irrigated it with the Helmand River. And we went back, in 2001, and it was all poppy fields. And we had to, and we spent money. So we created the problem. We went down this economic solution. Hey, you could actually, with the right irrigation, if we drop a couple $1 million in irrigation, you could actually farm here, thinking they would grow wheat or corn or cotton or whatever. Well, it turned into heroin. And going back there, you're like, we try. It's not for lack of effort. It's just, you never know. Like you said, there's these lenses we wear, and we go in there thinking, well, they'll turn this into this hub of agricultural citrus, almonds, and carrots. Bakersfield, it's the same. It's exactly the same type of situation in Bakersfield, California. You got water, deep groundwater, basically a desert, but it's got water, and you can grow stuff there. And we were thinking, man, this will turn into a hub of logistics. And like I said, citrus, almonds, and carrots. No, it's poppy.
Yeah. And who's the number one exporter, number one producer of fentanyl on earth? China. Number one producer of opium on earth? Afghanistan. I'm sure those two things don't align with anything, by the way. But
I'd be sitting in vehicles with
yeah,
these Afghan battalion commanders. So two battalion commanders. I'd be sitting in, Toyota Hiluxes with
yeah,
them, and we would see five brand new Toyota Land Cruisers rolling through the desert at like 50, 60 miles an hour. And I'm like, maybe we should stop those guys. And he's like, no, no, no. I know those guys. They're not, they're good guys. And I'm like, this
yeah.
is unsolvable.
Yeah,
And both the battalion commanders ran a private security contracting firm on the
yeah,
side, their
great.
side
That's
hustle.
great.
So if you're going to run dope out of Marja or out of Helmand province, who are you going to hire? Who better to hire than the police?
No, it's great. I mean, it's
So
business. It's
yeah, I
business.
mean,
And
yeah.
who made
So
the mistake? Us thinking that we can change that, right? And stuff like that, right? So taking it to a little further, right? How could we have solved this, right? A great man once said, "Do you want me to end this war? Because I'll end this war, but I'll have to kill millions of people, and nobody wants that.
right,
Do you want me to do that? I don't want to do that, right?"
right,
And he didn't, but he could have. And even when we talk about this type of stuff, if you don't even say that we can do that, but we're not gonna, you have a problem. You know what I mean? You have to admit, like, okay, what do you want? Do you want us to win the war? And you need to give those options. We can kill everybody. That it is an option. And if you don't even talk about that at all, you're failing yourself. You need to at least have that discussion, right? Not to say do it. I'm just saying, um, you have to have that discussion, because you're just, oh, just status quo. We got to do it. That you'll never break out of your own frame of thinking, right? Um, Examples of Sri Lanka and the Tamil Tigers. They won their insurgency, right? You know how you can tell? You just got to ask a Tamil Tiger. They're all dead. They don't
yeah,
exist. So the diasporas are around, but the Tamil Tigers in Sri Lanka do not exist. Why? Because every time they made advances in the war, the international diaspora would call for a ceasefire, and the Tamil Tigers would use that ceasefire to rearm, refit, and advance in technology. Even though only less than 10% of the Tamil population were Tamil Tigers, they captured the entire population, just like Hitler did with Germany, right? Although a much smaller scale. So when they finally had the Sri Lanka army finally had them isolated, the diaspora called for a ceasefire at that time, and then Sri Lanka was like, "Yeah, not today." And they went in there, and I think maybe possibly there were 40,000 civilian casualties, but they finally did what they needed to do to destroy that insurgency, right? And that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing that had to happen. But the difference is that they did it, right? And if you don't even talk about stuff you can do, you'll never think differently. You'll always just say, we'll just do things like we'll just do a route security clearance. They're always going to have IEDs, so we should stop using the roads. Well, you just lost. You lost at that point, right? Or we need bigger armor, right? Not, I don't know. I don't want to be out there, but just off the top of my head, I really believe that like 99% of our technological advancements in Iraq were reactionary, right? So they have this. How do we fight it? Oh, well, let's innovate. You're already losing in case you weren't, right?
right,
So
right.
it's how do we do something that they don't have, right? Is a
Right.
real question. And unfortunately, I mean, I don't want to get into super politics or anything like that, but we
No,
need
but
to take chances. We need to do stuff, right?
they had an IED threat, and our response was to build mine rollers, and then they would offset the IEDs just 12 feet behind where you'd click it with the mine roller and
Yeah,
still blow up the vehicle. So you're right, we're innovating. We're behind the
yeah,
innovation curve. We got about 5 minutes left. I want to touch really briefly on the next war, the next conflict. You mentioned one of the solutions in Afghanistan was private military contractors. I hear a lot of that. So I'm still on active duty. a lot of the folks on active duty are
Oh,
saying, yeah,
no.
this was just the minor leagues. The Marine Corps, the active duty Marine Corps infantry is the minor leagues, getting you ready for the real deal, which is private military contracting world.
Oh, that's what they say.
Uh, so yeah, that's really what
That's what
the
they
the
say. Yeah,
gunfighters in
yeah, they're not wrong.
my classmates are telling. Yeah, they're saying that's the wave of the future. Is you're just going to do your first 2 or 4 years enlistment as like a minor league contract, and then you're going to get onto the major leagues, which will be private contracting world. Maybe
It's
they're
a
right,
good
maybe they're
choice. Yeah.
wrong. Two questions for you is number one is, are you willing to sell your services to the private contracting world? And number two is, what do you see them able to do that like Title 10, Title 22 forces can't do as far as protecting corporations or working for even foreign governments?
I believe everyone can benefit from a creative training, and I, yeah, I would offer services for creative thinking to anybody who's an American who wants to buy it, right? And it subject to a background check, right?
Sure.
Um, but I feel that that's it's coming in the future. That's definitely one of the ways it could go. I believe the next war, because you asked me about the next war. Um, I'll tell you what I think. My brother sent me a meme of a guy on a motorcycle with a gas mask on, and it's like a wasteland.
Yeah.
And the top of the meme, it says, "I know you think things are hard right now, but I'm just here to tell you." And then it's a zoom in on the same guy. Things are going to get much worse.
Yeah.
Right? So here's the thing. I only know. I'm not even going to talk. Oh, I'll talk about half of it. I only know one thing for. I know two things for sure. I'm going to talk about one. I have no idea what's happening right now. Right? In the last year, things literally are completely 180 on sanity. The average sentence I hear civilians say when I talk to them is, "I feel like I'm going crazy."
Yeah.
And there's reasons for this. There's reasons that our country is going down the wrong path without question. And I'm not talking about like an escalator wrong path. I'm talking about like a bullet train wrong path.
Mm-hmm.
You look at everything that's happening all across the world with restrictions, and all across the country with restrictions, opinions. Look at how people label each other, right? If I want to make groups of people, I would create a name. I would say, "You're a hat wearer.
Yeah.
I'm a patriot." That hat wearer does not believe in your safety. Look at him. Look at all his friends. They're all wearing hats. I'm a patriot, right? And if that hat wearer speaks out, I want him banned from saying anything online. I want him punished because he doesn't agree with me, right? And I want to put laws against him. He shouldn't be allowed to get on a train wearing that hat. He shouldn't be allowed to go to school. His kids shouldn't be allowed to go to school for wearing that hat because he's a hat wearer. And he's the reason why I'm late to work every day. I'm late to work every day because he's wearing that hat. He's with all those, they're conspiracy theorists, those guys. So that's what's happening right now. You just replace the nouns. And that's not America. Last time I checked. So I believe things will get worse before they get better. And I believe that only person who can fix the situation is us, we the people, Americans, saying, "Hey, that's not right." I was in a chat group the other day. It was a voluntary working group for defense organization, quasi thing, club thing, and this guy said, "I want to address that there's only white people on this call, and we need to do better than that, and create an inclusive environment for people who are not white, because one of my friends would feel uncomfortable being in this call." And I said, "I strongly disagree with what you just said." And he said, "Well, too bad. It's my show." Right? And I said, "All right." And I left, because I will not sit here and let people disparage other people by the color of their skin. That's literally the definition of racism, right? And guess what? If you looked at all 33 faces on that beautiful Zoom call, one of those things was not like the other. And it was this guy, right?
I was going to say, like, neither one of the whole thing with this
It
white
was
thing. I'd say behind you, that cabinet is white. You're not white. I'm not white. But this chalkboard or this that's white. That's white. I'm not white. I'm not a white dude. I'm not black. I'm not white. And the same thing with this. Yeah,
I'm 39 years old. I'm 39 years old. I got called brown in February of this year. Do you know how many times I've been called brown in my life? Never. What the hell are you talking about? And then,
I don't know.
The only time I grew up in Queens. The only time I ever heard white was 2 times. Pretty fly for a white guy and play that funky music, white boy. We had Irish, Italian, Polish, Greek.
Yeah.
Jorge Stephanopoulos is Greek. Diana Sanchez is Mexican, and the other person is Italian. I know Indian, Pakistan. My friend, his name was Usman. He was from Pakistan, right?
Right.
Rajinder was a guy, right? Franz. All these people from all these different nationalities. No one ever used the term. It's all fake. It's all designed to divide and conquer. Every single thing that's being done. And you know what? If you told me 2 years ago, that all these things that are bad are all linked together, I would say that you're crazy. Well, guess what? I'm not saying that anymore, right? And I do believe there's stuff going on right now that is along those lines. Because every time I ask a question and someone tells me, it's very simple. This is, you're talking about trust in an organization, right? Right? Ask me where I got this shirt.
Mr. Gomez, where did you get that shirt?
You shut your mouth. You see how that you feel safe now, right? I could say, where did it get from? My dad got it for me from Cracker Barrel, right? I could say that, right? Or I could say I got it as a gift, or or whatever. I could say anything. But if I tell you to shut up for asking a question, things are just now we're in a completely different space before you ask that question. Now you don't trust me and you can't understand why you're not allowed to ask that question. Now things are confusing, right? And if I find myself when I ask questions, and I was on the news yesterday, right? And I told the news guy, I said, I'm here because those guys in that building don't want to answer my questions. I asked them questions and they didn't answer my questions, right? That's why I'm here. And if people don't answer questions, sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? Transparency. Ask questions, get answers, right? If it's like super secret, double secret probation, then you could say that, hey, it's super secret, double secret probation. I got you. But it's not a secret. And if you ask a simple question and you get told to shut up, there's something wrong in the situation, right? It works when you're a parent and you're talking to a child who does not know better,
right?
Because why do I have to stop playing with the tablet right now? Well, you played for an hour, now it's time to go to bed or you go to school. The parent knows because I said so. Well, guess what? The government does not get to say because I said so, right? And everyone else that is in that thing does not get to say that, right? Every single question I had when I was a commander, I answered 100% truthfully. And some people didn't like that. I don't care. I'll tell you what I think. I mean, I'm not in charge of sending you to your new unit. I have no power in that. I'll try to do my best to help you get that way, but I told you everything I could. So in America right now, there's questions being asked and they're not being answered. In fact, those people are being attacked. And they range from leaders of the free world to generals to doctors to moms. And yesterday I was with a mom who was an absolute train wreck of emotion. because no one will answer her questions. And she doesn't know why this is happening to her. And I don't know if you want me to talk about that, but it is absolutely the worst thing. One of the saddest things I've ever seen in the history of my life, right? She was trembling, hysterical, and she said, how could I let them do that to my children? Right? I'm a horrible parent. How could I let this happen to my child? I voted for this person because I accept everyone, but I was wrong. I was wrong by voting for that person. They're the bad guys. They made me do this to my child, and I will never forgive myself, right? And I don't know anyone who's feeling this way. I feel alone. I'm going to lose my business. I'm going to lose my marriage because my husband doesn't understand me. I need help, and I just want you to answer my question. Why won't anybody talk to me? And we were all there to support her because we understand. We're like, you're not alone. She had a kindergartner. I had a kindergartner. She had a mom who's sick. I have a mom who's sick. She was losing a business. It turns out that there's a group of people looking for services that her business provides that she can provide them now, right? But it's sad that we're in this place. And just like the guy on a motorcycle, I got news for you, buddy.
Yeah.
It's going to get a lot worse.
I'll tell you two really quick stories. Is I was recently a couple years ago in Chicago, south end of Chicago, in Gary, Indiana, and Fallujah was a better neighborhood. I was absolutely shocked at how horrible it was in south side of Chicago and Gary, Indiana. And then recently, about a month ago, I took a train up to L.A. I got off at Union Station. I hiked to Mid City. I just wanted to see it. I'm a little. I mean, I'm not. I don't have it all put together in my mind, so I just wanted to go see it for myself. It was apocalyptic. I walked about 3 blocks off of Skid Row in LA. I saw things there. It made Afghanistan look civilized. If compared to that, Afghanistan was completely civilized country compared to what I saw.
Yeah. Well,
in
we talk
downtown
about New York
Los
City,
Angeles. So
right? Hey, in New York City, they're assassinating people in broad daylight. Unfortunately, right? When I grow up, I lived there 26 years. Never had anything like that. Never saw the insanity of what's going on, lawlessness and everything. And guess what? 2 years ago, if you told me that there was a reason behind this, I would laugh at you. I would say it's just dumb people not knowing what they're doing. But guess what? I was dead wrong. It's not just dumb people who don't know what they're doing. It's all supposed to be happening according to what they're doing. So let's just say that. Well, we'll get through.
I'm gonna try to.
Yeah. Let's say.
I'm gonna try to land.
Well,
this
the important
on a
thing
high
is
note,
that
we'll
more people are waking up. Everybody just realized, hey, how does that thing work? What's going on? Like, shouldn't we? Who's responsible for our children? Oh, we're responsible for our children. We should probably do that. You and I and them, right? And these people who are telling us to shut up,
right?
We shouldn't listen to them anymore because they don't control us. We control ourselves. And that's the good thing, right? Every day I meet new people who want to learn more and take their kids' education into their own hands, take their help build positive things, right? Not tear people down. They'll help do great things. So I feel that that's a good thing.
I think there's a lot of us out there that are feeling the same things, and we're starting to form networks and put things together and start planning. And I think LinkedIn's been a really positive thing for us, is to reach out to people that are like-minded and start building a community and start figuring this thing out together. And like you said, start taking personal responsibility for our future and saying we're in control. But ending this on a high note, if people want to get your services, they want to reach out to you, how can they get a hold of you, and where can they?
Sure. Yeah, just go to my website, First Person Experience. So it's the word experience without the E. So firstpersonexperience.com. Just shoot me an email, info@firstpersonexperience.com. We are going to announce our new project next week, where we do that innovation experimentation lab, where we're going to be creating it. It's just a concept right now, but starting next week, we're taking active measures to create that. And then we'd love for people to come play in our world and learn some amazing stuff and do great stuff and do great things. That's what we want to do. When veterans ask me, what do I do now that I got out? I tell them 3 things. Do what you love, do what you're good at, and do what makes money. And if they're like, you might have to sacrifice on some of those lines, but you got to find your happy balance because everyone's different.
Oh, Mr. Gomez, or Lieutenant Colonel Gomez, it's been a pleasure. And it's a fascinating conversation. We'd like to have you back on the Red to Black podcast with Warner as well. We'll be reaching out to you soon. Take care. Godspeed.